The January 14th, 2019 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Baroth.
Here.
Mrs. Conley.
Here.
Chairman Delahanty.
Here.
Mrs. Draw.
Here.
Mr. Felder.
Here.
Ms. Cayley.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Marinetti is excused. Mr. Morelli is also excused. Mr. Rockow.
Here.
President Carbone.
Okay. All right. Will Legislator Draw please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Are there any speakers signed up for public forum?
Yes, there is. When I call your name, please come forward to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes in which to address the committee, and please ask that you conclude your remarks when the buzzer sounds. The three speakers we have signed up are Pia Stamp, Janet Rosenberg, and Karen Spong.
Good evening. My name is Janet Rosenberg. I'm a physical therapist in early intervention. I'm here because I feel there's still a need to explain why early intervention is in crisis and why this issue is not going to go away. In November and December of this past year, many of us came to speak about the EI crisis. 2 more agencies announced they were no longer going to provide service coordination, and this meant more than 1,000 children would become the responsibility of Monroe County service coordinators. In response to this crisis, the county service coordinators announced that all new referrals to EI would go on a wait list beginning December 1st. EI agencies and independent EI providers spoke out because without referrals for evaluations and ultimately without new children needing services, we would not have the revenue to keep agencies running and staff paid. Fortunately, this wait list to process new referrals has been lifted. However, we still have a growing wait list for ongoing services. These are children who have been found eligible for EI services based upon evaluations. They are waiting for services because there is a shortage of therapists, including speech therapists, teachers for the deaf, teachers for the visually impaired, OTs, PTs, and special educators. Last week at the legislature meeting, I reported that in December 2018, there were 94 children waiting for some type of EI therapy service in Monroe County. This month, the wait list has 133 children. That's a 43% increase in 1 month's time. Wait lists are not new. They've been around for at least 4 years. As the handout you will receive later tonight shows, in December 2017, there were 5 children compared to 94 children in December of 2018. That is an 1,800% increase in children waiting for ongoing services. And in January 2018, there were 13 children compared to 133 this month. That's a 923% increase. Remember, the longer a child waits for intervention, the greater the gap, the greater the need, the greater the cost to the taxpayer. Why is there a wait list? It goes back to reimbursement rates in New York State, which are less now than they were 20 years ago. Therapists and teachers leave EI for more competitive salaries and benefits, and it is becoming more and more challenging to attract providers into this field. We are the voice of our most vulnerable, many who have had complicated birth histories and have fought just to survive. We need you to help us advocate at the state level for EI rate increases and reform to the EI program. We need you to involve us. We are the ones working in the trenches. We need to be a part of the solution. Please reach out to us. We want to help. Thank you.
Yes, step by step. We've been here before.
So today we got 2 phone calls from parents, one from a parent and one from a provider. And I'm going to share 2 stories with you of children who are now waiting on the waiting list and what the consequences are of that. On the west side of Monroe, there is a child waiting for early intervention feeding help. She qualified and approved to receive early intervention services. The child is now 7 months old. She was born apparently healthy. At 4 months, she began having severe seizures that could not be controlled with regular epilepsy drugs. She was diagnosed with infantile spasms. Infantile spasms cause behavior, learning, and motor problems that may never resolve. This particular child lost all her motor skills and feeding skills when she started having seizures. She had a swallow study done, and it showed that she was aspirating food into her lungs because she could not control her mouth and her swallowing. A feeding tube was surgically inserted into her intestines. The child immediately began receiving physical therapy from early intervention, but there are no services available for feeding therapy, and she's on the waiting list while her parents struggle to feed her. As the family navigates this little baby's horrible and permanent diagnosis, she is sitting on the early intervention waiting list along with 133 other children. No matter how long the baby is on the waiting list, it's time lost and detrimental to her future ability to ever learn to eat by mouth. The longer she waits, the more time and ultimately taxpayer money it's going to cost to help her and her family. The second phone call came, again, from somebody who was begging for us to just find some kind of services, and that's a set of twins on the waiting list. They were born at 23 weeks. They automatically qualify for early intervention due to their diagnosis of extreme prematurity. Their initial evaluation found them eligible and needing feeding therapy due to severe feeding difficulties on September 12, 2018. They have now been on the waiting list and have lost 4 months. When parents are not taught how to feed their medically frail children correctly, it is highly likely that they will need years of services to learn to become independent with feeding, if ever. It is probably the most stressful situation imaginable for parents to be unable to feed their children. The trauma of premature birth is exacerbated by having to wait for help. Can you imagine not being able to feed your baby? This is just 2 stories of the 133 children waiting for early intervention services that they are entitled to by law. We need your help.
Hi, I'm Karen Spotton. I've also been here many times. I'm a retired administrator from Rochester City School District Preschool Special Education, and I am a licensed speech pathologist. Another month has passed, and more families all throughout Monroe County, all 23 school districts, continue to be affected by the county's lack of fiscal support for services of children birth to 5. You've all listened to us go on and on. I mean, there's been multiple speakers that have talked about how long this has been going on, what services are impacted, how long waiting lists have been going on, and yes, like Pia and Janet said, there are still waiting lists. The action of the legislature last month to address the lack of ongoing service providers within Monroe County for early intervention was really a farce if you thought it solved the problem. The positions created were essentially clerical support for the limited number of individuals within the Monroe County Department of Special Children's Services, and I think by verifying this with Dr. Mendoza, he can assure you that, or he can verify that these were not ongoing service ongoing service coordinators that were positions that were developed. I know that legislators from both parties are going to New York State, are going to Albany on January 28th to NYSAC to request that the governor does something on the state level. But please don't think in a minute by supporting NYSAC takes care of the problem. Monroe County still is responsible for the rates for speech and OT and PT and teacher of the deaf and feeding and visual impairments. You know, I applaud that Sheldon Awful and Jeff Kazarowski went to Albany to talk about the crisis, but really the crisis could be taken care of within, or it could start to be taken care of within a very short period of time if this legislature would just look at reappropriating money within the budget to help these kids. You know, I think we're getting very close to the time when there are parents now that are starting to look at suing New York State and suing the county of Monroe because we are violating their rights. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the committee at this time? No? Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the December 18th, 2018 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk notified of any changes by the end of the day. The next item on the agenda is new business. Clerk.
Referral 19-0006.
Moved by Legislator Conway, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, the referral references 5 newly hired DNA analysts. Are they all full-time employees, through the chair? Through the chair, yes, they are. Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I know that we have a contract now with FIU and FSTC for about $8,000 more or less per person. I'm assuming we have funds available to take care of their travel and other related expenses for when they have to go down to Florida. Is that correct, through the chair?
Through the chair, our employees won't be going to Florida. FIU staff will come here for the training.
Oh, so through the chair of the administration, does the contract cover all those expenses as well?
Through the chair, yes, it does.
Thank you. And finally, through the chair of the administration, were there any local respondents to the request for qualifications that was issued?
Through the chair, no, there was not.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0008.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. Can you give some examples of what sustainability improvements might be financed?
Through the chair, there are elements that will be incorporated into the design or into this construction, namely LED lighting and other energy efficient features. We're not pursuing LEED certification in this case, as you know from other projects at MCC, where we're typically renovating a building or more substantial space. We will pursue a LEED certification. But in this case, where it's a discrete floor, we've done some work already on the 3rd floor, but on the 1st floor here, this is lab equipment, a lot of millwork, desks, things, and support features for both chemistry and physics laboratories.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0009.
Moved by legislator Rockow, seconded by legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0010.
Moved by legislator Ansello, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0012.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, part of the referral indicates that we increased the funding by about $83,000 and indicates that there are increases in design costs and construction costs. Could you give a breakdown, please, of what increase was due to design and what increase was due to construction costs being higher than expected, through the chair?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there was some small increases to the design, although it kept very close to the original design amounts. The increases for construction are for just a few incidental items that were included as part of the bid. We included those as deduct items, although we did not choose to accept the deducts because the pricing was very good, and if we had to go back and do it with our own crews, we would actually spend more money doing it with our own crews, so we included them. There are some small railing components, some sidewalk repairs, and some other things that were not part of the original scope, but felt to be warranted as part of this general rehab.
So through the chair of the administration, there was no change in construction costs of materials per se, it's just change in scope then. Is that correct, through the chair?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Thank you. So of the total original project cost was about $350,000. Is that correct, through the chair?
Total project, through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, total of $350,000.
Thank you. And currently, apparently, New York State Department of Transportation, the federal government, will provide about 78% of the project cost. Now, the amount was $350,000. Was that percentage the same, or was it a different percentage, through the chair?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is Bridge New York funding, which was reimbursed through the state, and the original funding was, I believe, 80%, and as a result of the small increase, we cannot get any more state funding for that. What you got, so to speak. So these increases above the 350 have put us at that 72%.
Thank you. And then finally, through the chair of the administration, do we anticipate any challenges with receiving the funding that's going to be coming from the federal government?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no. Those are appropriated through the Genesee Transportation Council and the TIP that is currently in effect.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0013.
Moved by legislator Connolly, seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0014.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Rockow. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0015.
Moved by legislator Rockow, seconded by legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0016.
Moved by legislator Ansello, seconded by President Carbone. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0017.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by legislator Connolly. Legislator Connolly.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the administration, I noticed that the funding levels for this particular grant have dropped since the grant was initially created. But I believe that the number of safe harbor advocates has continued to be stable. And so I was wondering if we could get an explanation from the administration on how the Center for Youth and the Safe Harbor Advocates have continued to perform their duties under this grant, despite the decrease in funding from the state.
Sure, Legislator. Through the chair, if you recall, last year we were at the end of our pilot program. New York State Department, OCFS, they were providing us with nearly $100,000, actually a little bit over that, from the first year in 2013 through the fifth year of 2017. So once that pilot program expired, it was supposed to be you're on your own, and good luck to you. Fortunately, they saw the great work that we were doing with our partner, Center for Youth, and said, well, we're going to give you graduate community status. And with that came $25,000 at the beginning of the year, and then we continued our excellent work, and they proceeded to give us another $14,000, which this honorable body voted on at the end of the year. So then this year they came to us and said, well, you've done a great job, and we're going to give you $43,000. That's how we came to the amount this year. But going back to how do you make up the difference, our Department of Human Services, we have our leadership meetings, and the folks around the table are saying, well, how do we help you make sure that Center for Youth and yourselves are still funded and we can get you through this, because we need to have this advocacy, we need to have these services provided for our youth victims of sex trafficking. And the Director of Mental Health spoke up and said, well, we can help you this year, but we won't have the funding in 2019. So fortunately, the Office of Mental Health came up with $75,000 in reallocated resources to make sure that we remain solvent last year to help those youth who have been trafficked. That brought us to 2019. And Center for Youth, after meeting with them, they said, well, thank you, Monroe County, for making sure that we were solvent last year. We're going to step up this year, and we'll provide the remaining dollars of $60,000, and that's from their great director, Elaine Spall. So it really is a great example of teamwork between our runaway homeless youth provider and county government, and it's been echoed throughout New York State as that's how you do it. Westchester County is a fairly large community, and they're able to fund everything from soup to nuts within their own DHS folks. But we cannot do that. We're a little bit smaller, and we rely on our runaway homeless youth providers, and especially Center for Youth with this one.
Thank you, Mr. Berry, and I just want to compliment you on creating a scenario where the funding could continue, because the children who survive sex trafficking, it's hard for them to open up, and to have that relationship with that advocate that lasts years. The advocates that work with Center for Youth have been working with the same kids for 2 or 3 years. It makes a huge difference, and I'm grateful for the support that the Office of Mental Health was able to provide, and for the ongoing continued work that the Safe Harbor Advocates do, and the support that the county provides. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Legislator.
Thank you. Legislator Barra.
Thank you. Through you to the administration, how many other counties have the status of New York State graduate community?
Through the chair, the first 5 pilot counties, they were offered the graduate community status. Unfortunately, for the counties throughout the tenure of Safe Harbor from 2012 on, some just say, we can't do this. Even though they're receiving money, they have to refuse the dollars because they just don't have the resources or the folks that are willing to pitch in and say, we want to combat this in our community. We have been fortunate in that regard, because those counties that refused those dollars, that's how we were able to receive those amended amounts for the last 4 years. So we have been able to succeed where other counties cannot.
So through the chair of the administration, are there any other counties that currently have this status or not?
Through the chair, like I just said, I believe that it's the 5 pilot counties, Monroe County and the other 4, and I can get you those other 4.
So there's 5, but others after that first year or whatever did not achieve this status. Is that correct?
Through the chair, there were 5 pilot counties, Monroe County being 1, and I can get you those other 4.
Okay, so currently there's 5 counties in total with the status of graduate community status, correct?
No. Through the chair, I can get you the 5 pilot counties, and I will ask to see if they have received graduate community status or not.
Okay, so we don't know yet if any other counties have this status.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, so I look forward to finding that out before the full ledge, if that's possible, through the chair.
Through the chair, we'll get that to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Legislator Kaley.
Chairman, through you to the administration, this may be nothing, but you chose to utilize the word offered the status, and I wonder if there is additional responsibilities because the way that it was related, you said we accepted the status. Is there additional responsibility in creating and holding that status, or was that just a word choice?
Through the chair, as a former English teacher, I like to use different words to spice things up a little, and I chose the word offered, and when they presented that to us, we were glad to receive it. So we could say proffered, we could say granted, but in any way, shape, or form, we were glad to receive it.
Thank you, but then the second part of the question would be, is there any additional responsibilities having received the offer of this status?
It's merely continuing the great work that our partners, Center for Youth, have done in conjunction with our DHS department.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0018.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, at the Rec and Ed committee meeting, it was mentioned that this is going to be exploring both campuses, which makes sense. My question is, do we know if the master plan will address or pay any attention to transportation between the two campuses?
Through the chair, no, I don't. I will inquire as to whether or not that's the case, but I'd like to correct that. What I said is that it would include all of their facilities, so the applied technology facility as well as also would be under evaluation for the master plan.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then finally, through the chair of the administration, I know part of the referral is added to the capital improvement plan or program. In what years do we expect the amount of $431,000 to be spent or released?
Through the chair, we were asked in the previous committee, the question was about when the reimbursement would take place. I will endeavor to find out from MCC what their timeline is with regards to implementation and when they plan to have the final plan in hand, and that probably provide greater clarity as to when they plan to expend the money. And that's also another question that was asked at a previous committee meeting about when the plan would be completed so that it could be provided to members of the legislature.
Okay, I would look forward to that as well. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0019.
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion? Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, I see that this is going to be financed. Is there any intent to use any cash or apply for any grants to help financing this?
Through the chair, we always look for grant funding when possible. But we haven't found anything that this is eligible to apply for at this time.
Thank you.
Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, we're being asked to authorize $6.5 million and approve a contract for about $1.7 million. What is going to be done, or where will the other $4.75 million be spent or utilized? Through the chair.
Through the chair, that does not include the hardware costs, which would be servers, backup servers, and that type thing of approximately $1 million. There's also hardware for the booking stations in all the towns, villages, all the police departments. There's interface costs. Tyler Technologies is going to design an interface, but if we have to interface with the other side, another product, there may be some cost for that as well. So there's the whole project entails a lot more than just this one piece.
Okay. And through the chair of the administration, it's mentioned that part of the project is for the various law enforcement agencies as well as parole and probation to share this information. Will this interact with any other systems that might be utilized by the DA's office, the medical examiner's office, the public defender's office, and such, through the chair?
Through the chair, yes, we actually do have, we will be having like an interface with the DA system, but it's more just information sharing. We'll be providing data to the Monroe County Crime Analysis Center. So there'll be other touch points where we supply data or get data, but it's these agencies would actually utilize the system.
Okay. And through the chair of the administration, are there any associated costs with providing those additional touch points for these other organizations, or is that already included? Or
through the chair, as I said before, a lot of the interfaces from the Tyler end of it are included in the contract. But if, for example, the DA system needs to do a little bit of work on their end and there's a cost, that's part of this, would be part of an additional part of the $6.5 million.
Okay. And then finally, through the chair of the administration, similar to the last question, I realize we're adding this to the CIP. My question is, do we know what years in which this would be on the CIP yet, through the chair?
Through the chair, we are going to start, we're kind of in the process and starting negotiations for this contract with Tyler Technologies, and once we finalize that, we'll have a better timeline, but I would say 24 to 36 months would be the project duration.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0020.
Moved by Legislator Rockow, seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion? Legislator Mafucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration. If we are renting space in other places, and I think we are, is there any intent to move any other people there? Is there room?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, at this point we don't have a specific relocation in mind, but the intent is to maximize the utility as City Place to create essentially government center. So as space is freed up, for instance, once planning comes off of 8, we're evaluating what would be the best use of the space that's freed up with the eye towards consolidation and bringing as much of the county's operations into buildings that we own.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-022.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by President Carbone. Legislator Barat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to the administration, so I guess my question is, which is it? Is the 2018 being resolved very late, or is 2019 being resolved very early in this referral through the chair, if that makes sense? So we're either being incredibly efficient or inefficient, one of the two.
Through the chair, by example is probably the best way I can respond, is that in 2017, in October, this body passed the similar referral covering the period of January 1st, 17 to December 31st, 17. Okay. So this largely is consistent with that, and so it would make the your question about are we early on 19 or early on 19?
So essentially, so the way I understand that then is, at least for the past 4 years, we're doing this every 2 years. Is that correct, through the chair? Or am I wrong?
Through the chair, I think traditionally we do it. We try to do it every year. So the 17 referral was just for 17.
Okay, fair enough. I was just curious because they were both in the same referral, so I was just wondering about that. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0024.
Moved by President Carbone, seconded by Legislator Connolly. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 19-0026.
Moved by Legislator Connolly, seconded by Legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Legislator Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I went to a community meeting about this project, and I had a couple of questions for the administration. The residents in the community were indicating that they really wanted 6-foot shoulders, and I was wondering through you to the administration if the new bridge would allow for that.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, let me just pull this out a quick minute. It does provide for shoulders, but I don't know the exact width, so let me look that up. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the new width of the bridge will be 35 feet wide with 11-foot lanes that would provide approximately 13 feet additional space. So we do have to have guide rail across there and some other amenities. So there will likely be a shoulder. I don't have the exact width. I can confirm that tomorrow.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chairman, through you to the administration. It's a bridge that a lot of residents use to walk their dogs. It's a highly trafficked area, and the residents had indicated that they would prefer the shoulders to be wide enough so that it's not unsafe if they were to be walking their dogs or walking through the park at that area. And I had another question. What is, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the administration, what is the plan for first responder access when the bridge is out?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the normal procedure that we have at our pre-construction meetings is we invite all the emergency responders. There is a detour in place, and it's actually a very short detour utilizing Corduroy Road and one of the other close-by roads. So it's a very short detour to get around the bridge while it's under construction. They will all be notified during our pre-construction meeting, and very likely through either their own resources and or mutual aid, they will have that particular area covered.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? There being no other matters, the January 14th, 2019 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be held Tuesday, February 26th, 2019 at 6 p.m.